Cam, RRSP Mortgage Minute. Hey, 35-year amortizations. Yes, we can still get those. Actually, believe it or not, we still have one lender that's even doing up to 40 years still. However, 35 is something we can certainly do. So if you had heard through, I guess, the news, the media, wherever else, that the only thing available was a 25-year amortization, that's incorrect. You can get a 35. Now, the key thing to remember is that that has to be on a conventional mortgage. What that means is you've got at least 20% down, and therefore you don't need an insurer. If, however, it's an insurer-backed mortgage, then the maximum is truly 25 years. Now, for those of you who don't know what an amortization is, really it's just, well, I guess it's a fancy way of stretching out the mortgage over a longer term so your payments are more affordable. In the United States, for example, they don't have such a thing as amortization. All the mortgages run for the same term. So you can, in the United States, get 30-year mortgages, 25, 35-year mortgages, and they run the same rate, never changes during that entire term of the mortgage. In Canada, however, we do it differently. The maximum term we can get is up to a 10-year. However, to make sure that the payments are affordable, because you could imagine if you had a $300,000 mortgage that you had to repay back over 10 years, those payments would be horrendous. An amortization is like a balloon payment. It allows you to stretch that payment over a much longer term as if you were truly taking the mortgage over that same time period. So it allows us to keep those payments very affordable for you. However, the thing to bear in mind with an amortization is because our terms are, let's say, 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, whatever they may be, at that end of that time period, you've got to re-look at your rate, and it could be, well, whatever the rate is, it will be. But that's the only uncertainty with that sort of thing. So some people like to take a really long term, and that is an advantage to them because then they don't worry about rates. Now, the advantage of taking a longer amortization, I get asked that, and people say, hey, does that mean I will pay more interest? Absolutely, yes, it does mean that you'll pay more interest. However, is there ways to mitigate that? Absolutely. So what you've got to look at is there better uses for your money? And sometimes there is. That an increased cash flow can be put towards other debt, it can be put towards your RSPs, it can be put towards a number of things that may be more advantageous for you to be putting that money towards as opposed to the mortgage. Now, how do you know if this is going to make sense or if it's the right thing for you? Well, guess what? You come on in, you sit down with us, and we'll figure it out for you. We'll do it together, and we'll see if truly that longer amortization would be more of an advantage to you than a shorter one. Because in some cases, it's worked really well. We've had clients who've opted for it and said, hey, you know what? I've now got some other debts that I wanted to pay off. I can do that. And then when those debts are paid, I'm going to put the extra back against my mortgage. There's a lot of different options. And the other neat thing with a longer amortization is if your payments are lower to start with, there's nothing stopping you from increasing your payments. However, if you take a very short amortization to begin with, it's always more of an encumbrance to try to stretch the payments back out. And there is, again, strategies with that sort of thing as well. That's what we're here to do at the Auxilium team. As the name says, to care, aid, assist, and support. Well, that's what we're going to do all in one go. So if you want to know more, if you want to see what kind of amortization options are available to you and what may work best for you, give us a shout. The Auxilium team, it's Cam the Mortgage Man. I look forward to hearing from you.